all kinds of different organizations. So, three key points here is that when we allow our conversations to focus on identity and presence, not so much telling somebody who we are, but being curious about another. And how do they reference their own identity? What is the experience we have of their presence? What does it invite us to want to know more about? It's a game changer in terms of our relational competence. It helps us to understand how are we showing up? What choices are we making about various places and people and situations we find ourselves in so that we're always values aligned? And ultimately, how do we access a deeper part of ourselves? So know that that's in the background, that this program is available. And I'm going to draw you back to what some of those capabilities are as we explore today. All right. So a little contextual piece. Both of these things on here, the worldview and the mindset, these are, sorry, I have to get this out of my way. I'm seeing the poll. Why am I seeing the poll?
It's con.
It's not for me.
Oh, that's weird.
It's right in the middle of my slide. I don't know how to move it. Okay, I'm gonna stick it over there. Um, Worldview and mindset are things that we um, can acknowledge if somebody asks us. But if they don't, they're operating in the background, a little bit like the autopilot on an airplane, unless something happens that kind of shakes our faith in it. And we say, but wait a minute, I don't agree with that. Or we have a reaction of some kind. We have a great deal of this happening with the five generations in the workplace. So I wanted to give you some places to hook what you might be experiencing as tension or division or disagreement or um, incongruence, any of those adjectives. So where did I grow up geographically? Did I stay there my entire life or did I move around? Did I move a little or did I move a lot? How would I, that wonderful movie Braveheart, where the Scottish always introduce themselves with all the family lineage that they are part of. We don't do that anymore. We're lucky to get beyond a first name. I don't know if you've noticed, but last names are really hard to let. You have to ask people and tell me your last name, please. This it matters in terms of how we understand each other's identity. There's six skills in the core competency model from the ICF that specifically ask us to give consideration to discover, to consider. Sorry, what was the other one? Incorporate, allow clients to be more expressive about and its relevance to what they've brought to coaching. So, yes, beyond geography, cultural traditions, what are the norms that I grew up with? Maybe even my anthropology and my philosophy. And philosophy, of course, could include spirituality or religion or simply the way in which we do things in our family. Um, I grew up in the middle of the country in St. Louis, Missouri, and we were very close to downtown. So I went to East St. Louis, and it was really different from West St. Louis, and everybody knew what that meant. That meant you were African American if you were in East St. Louis, and you were white, and probably Protestant or Catholic if you were in West St. Louis. But those words never came out of anybody's mouth because we were raised to say you don't discuss sex, religion, or politics. You just don't. So you learn to speak about other things, and yet those are always in the background influencing us. So mindset, therefore, is influencing every moment. We've got our history, and then what's happening for me right here? What thoughts are coming up? What are my beliefs, my habits, my way of assigning meaning? And as I said, these all generally operate unconsciously, influencing how we show up, how we interact with others, and how we make decisions until something breaks down and we need something else. So, as you think about those things, remember, we are not meant to only cope. That's what my parents taught me how to do. That was that part, don't discuss sex, politics, or religion. We're actually wired to evolve. All human beings, the minute we come out of the womb, we are wired for connection and we're wired to grow. And when those two things get short-circuited, now it feels like friction, uncomfortable. And more often than not, we don't actually know why it's happening. Hence why it's so useful to have somebody who asks us, who's curious genuinely to help us understand what's actually happening here that I'm uncomfortable with. So here's another piece of the puzzle. When we think about this in a business context, here's your second poll. When you first started working, what was the loudest rule that became your guide for how you were going to show up at work and interact with peers? If you're in a thinking about an early people manager role, how were you with your team? And how were you with superiors? All right, poll master, issue away.
There we go.
Thank you. Wow. That's great. Keep going. So my wow reaction is, oh my gosh, all three of those. And can you imagine? Yeah, okay, there goes never show doubt or failure. All of those can often be isolating. And oh, by the way, it doesn't matter what generation you're in. The source of the reason why you're doing it might be slightly different by generation for all the reasons we just talked about in terms of worldview and mindset. And yet, all of these are elevating the transactional over the relational. And that's what we see. We've got a big split in organizational life where productivity and speed and results at all cost override understanding, wait a minute, there's a human here that's involved in all of this. And imagine, uh, as a manager, I have a boss that I'm reporting to who sometimes has me do things that I don't necessarily align with. And yet I have a responsibility to the organization. I am a representative of the organization to my team. And so we set down the expectations, but we don't always give the why because we don't like the why. We don't agree with the why. If we've come from the boomer and the Gen X generations, that was the rules. You just didn't tell it. You just said, get her done. Keep your head down, keep delivering, don't show any doubt or failure, keep the train on the track moving full steam ahead. And it has consequences, which were there before the pandemic. But what the pandemic did was reveal an extraordinary weakness in organizational systems, this out of balance that I'm talking about between transactional and relational. All right. Well, the big winner, over deliver even at cost. Yes, in my early career life, that was absolutely true, and it has never changed. Okay. We know that this kind of environment has produced 21%, which means 79 not of engagement. It costs the global economy close to $7 trillion annually. That's 9% of global GDP. And just let that sink in for a second. This difficulty that we are having speaking across generations that we seem to look the other way and tolerate is actually contributing to the reason that we have the disagreement in the first place. So, in my humble opinion, it's a really big call to action for all of us to slow down a little bit and ask ourselves, how are we contributing to the experience that each of the generations are having? And what choices could we make differently? So, This first one, I just want you to do a little quiet reflection for yourself. I'm going to give you a set of questions here. What were the rules when you started working? Maybe you started at 16 at McDonald's. Maybe you started at 19 out of college in an internship. Maybe you started working in a family business and then went to an organization later. Just think a little bit about what were the rules when you started working? And of course, rules are in place because somebody had the wisdom to think that would produce results that were desirable. So, what did success look like back then? What did success look like? For some of you, that's 10 years ago. For some of us, that's 40 years ago. Now, really important one to tell the truth. You don't have to say it out loud. This is all for you. Which of those rules and measures are you still following? Darn it. Every time it comes up and sneaks up on me. So use the chat now. Yes or no? Do you see how those old rules and measures impact your future? I'm going to stop share for a moment. I'm going to take a look at chat, and you're also welcome to come off mute if you like. And I don't see any. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's on the wrong. There we go. Absolutely, Paula. Yes. Yes, definitely. So now when you think about that, it's like, oh, that's my autopilot. I was trained that way in my family. I mean, absolutely, with three older brothers who were all active in sports, and I'm the baby sister, right? Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be spoiled. Who did the grocery shopping? Who did all the laundry? Who made all the beds? Who was the one that mom always said, "Hey, will you go take care of?" So that's a worldview thing. I figured out how to get stuff done. I never had to be asked. I just did it because guess what? Harmony at all cost. If I could have harmony at home, then I could have my time to do things. I have carried that into the workplace. So, moral to the story here is with 5 generations in the workplace, if we're not getting curious to ask, what are the rules and success measures that person you're holding as what you think should be your experience in the workplace, we're going to end up being at odds with each other because we just come from different starting places. John Powell's work from the Othering and Belonging Institute, where he talks about the fact that, this is never going to be an or. We are an extremely diverse country. It is always going to be an and the only way to hear each other is to ask and then stay available to listen fully. And this is another element that's inside of our Conversation Made Better program because I find that an awful lot of people have forgotten how to ask the question, what is valuable for me to know about you? What is the best way for me to partner with you? What can I learn about how you see this problem by simply inviting you to describe it for me? If leaders don't do this because they're under the pressure of speed at all costs, it catches up. They're going to look over their shoulder one day and not see a person there to do the job. Yeah, I've had that experience when I was not a very good people manager and I wasn't asking any questions. I was telling, I wasn't inviting. And I had spent a great deal of time putting together a great team that didn't want to work for me. So if you want to be the kind of leader that people love to follow, there's a shift required, a very intentional shift. Oh, don't come to me with problems, come with solutions. Yes, Paula. Yeah, that was definitely a rule. It, and unfortunately, I might not be the one with the right answer for the solution. I might be able to see that there's a problem, but I'm not necessarily skilled or exposed to the information that would best inform what the solution would be. So if I'm a leader who's pressed, yeah, walk down the hallway with me, and I don't make myself available for an open exchange, and I'm not really listening to you when you're talking, I'm thinking about the meeting I'm on my way to, I'm going to miss a huge risk in the organization. Because here's the thing, the younger generations tend to be on the front line where the work gets done, whether it's operational or manufacturing or customer service or sales, it doesn't matter. They tend to be a little closer to the point where the interaction happens that drives revenue. So they can provide information that is real-time analytics, something surveys can't do because they lag. But if leaders aren't available to hear it because they think they know better, or they're too busy, or it's not a priority, it will show up on the, we used to have this phrase in financial services, don't let it be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. We called it Wall Street WSJ risk. Well, this is what's happening. We blame it on generational difference that we don't have tolerance for each other, but it's actually a much bigger system problem than that. And it all comes right back to, will we be in connection and allow ourselves to have a conversation that is mutually respectful? Anybody else want to add something? Okay, I'm going to keep going. All right. So, delivering and receiving feedback through relational presence, shifting your inner narrative to receive the value of feedback, and being able to evolve a transactional into a relational approach as a leader. All right. Get a little piece of paper out because you're going to want to capture this for later. Name a moment you could have led differently, and you chose safety or control instead. Not every moment, just pick one. And it might be something that's a little more current for you because you can feel the emotional impact of it. What do you wish you had said or done? What do you wish you had said or done? In hindsight, always 2020 vision. If you had said or done that, what do you imagine the outcome might have been? Different than the one you're not so happy with? And unlike the rule, see if you can go underneath the rule and identify what was the leadership value that you refused to let go of. That's right, Terry, the Washington Post. Yep. So I'm remembering a time when I told my boss something about a big meeting that was coming up. I had been doing a little bit of reconnaissance about kind of where were people's mindsets, what perspectives were they holding, were they, in politics we'd say, were you whipping the votes? No, what I was trying to figure out is how many people were prepared for this meeting and how many weren't. And a big decision needed to come out of it. And I learned a number of things that were quite disturbing about what meaning people were making of what was happening. And I gave him some brutal honesty. And he had invited another one of the executives to this meeting who didn't know me as well. I didn't have as much relationship with this person. And this person was very analytical in his thinking. And we were having a conversation about behavior and intuition and instinct and where did we think the emotion was going to go with this situation. What I wished was that I had asked a question instead of answering the question my boss asked me. Something like, as I give you this information, what will you use it for in preparation for the meeting? That would have been far more generative. And it would have allowed me to consider the impact of what I was about to say. The outcome that might have been would have been that the other person could have caught up with us and could have asked some questions because there wasn't any need to interrupt my very well-informed opinion about what was going on. And the leadership value that I refused to let go of was that I had a responsibility to do my job. And my job was to go find out what everybody thought. But it wasn't my whole job, right? Because of my narrow-mindedness of deliver at all cost, over deliver if you possibly could, I missed the subtleties of kind of reading the system and reading the moment in that meeting with somebody new in the session. So I give you the example to say it wasn't that I did anything wrong, but I was far less effective than I could have been. And I was dealing with a different generation of leadership. And I was also pushing myself to be better, to contribute more, to demonstrate that I could. And that over delivering at all cost actually cost me a lot. And it took me a good year to reestablish my relationship with that other executive. It was much more analytic. With time, we became great friends, but I had to learn to eat a little humble pie and to slow down a little bit and to be a lot more curious. So, as you look at your story, think about, oh, that's not supposed to be there. And that's not supposed to be there either. Okay, we're going to go to the poll question. Hang on to your story because I'm going to have you work with it in a breakout room. What quality in the other generation do you most appreciate? In that story that I just gave you, what I came to appreciate was that it's not enough to just look at the dynamics. You have to look at the analytics and you have to look at the longer term impact of the discussion that I was having. I really learned systems thinking out of over delivering at a cost and not realizing I needed to open up my thinking about cause and effect. And the reason that something that was there before continues to sustain. There's always a good reason. And when we disrespect that, we actually create more drama in the system. And this happens between all generations. It's not unique to Millennial and Gen Z, except they're so well equipped with access to information that, Paula, I can't believe that you said Britannica. Yeah, we were still using encyclopedias, hardbound books that you opened up to the to the alphabet and went, well, let's see what they say about this subject. Yeah. Not so much anymore, where knowledge retained in our brains is out of date every 2 hours because it's updated in the palm of our hands. It's a really different environment. All right, where's our poll, Master? What's the quality in the other generation, whoever you identify as the other generation, that you most appreciate? Well, I didn't put an other here, wondering if you might want one, but because I'm looking at 11 out of 18. If yours is an other, we could go to chat to talk about that here in a second. In the example that I gave you, it was their capacity to ask big questions. Boy, did I learn a lot from the questions they asked me that were putting my comments in a less important context. In other words, what I was paying attention to was not the bigger game of the meeting. And somehow I had missed the memo. And it was the challenge from that more analytic executive that made me realize there were a couple of different questions I could have asked when I went to do my job to go collect some intelligence about where people's pulse was. So the moral to the story here is that there's always something to be learned from the other, whether that's elder or junior. There are a lot of practices in companies that are grappling successfully with five generations in the workplace, things like reverse mentoring. And what are they doing there? This is a somebody from an older generation spending time with the younger generation, hearing how they are experiencing things and where they're having success. Now you can probably see the benefit of that. The youth feel respected and acknowledged, and they realize, oh, the boss is not that closed. There is openness to what I have to bring. And once that's established, that can become a two-way communication. And that's what many are seeing. Peer-to-peer coaching inside the organization, using coaching skills for daily conversation in order to say, hey, I see that we don't have the same point of view here, but I'm really curious to find out what's behind that. What do you see that I don't see? And then that becomes the norm because we've learned to appreciate the difference rather than put it up as a barrier. All right. Was there anything? Was there an other? And did anybody have an other? No? I'm shocked. All right. So, as you think about now, I this was one of the commenters. I don't know if she's here. You can see if Brigitte, if you're here. Um, this is a wonderful quote from a piece that she's written about generational difference. That a society that is obsessed with conformity misreads evolutionary assets. The fact that digital natives, and those are only going to become much more profound, not just because they have access to information, but because technology is going to enable them to replace a lot of manual things with automation, which means they have the luxury of more time to do creative, innovative things. They're going to move at a faster speed. And how do we see that as evolutionary benefit rather than feeling ourselves at odds in some way? So you're going to be in triads, random triads. And Hamad, can you set those up while I set this up? Thank you.
Sure thing.
Um, here's our invitation to you in your conversation. Each of you select an old rule. Maybe you only wrote down one, that's fine. Work with that one. Whatever old rule that you answered in the previous reflection, convert it into a new agreement. What is a different way in which you want to interact in the workplace? Make this real. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a committee, maybe it's a particular project team, maybe it's just your peers. Make this real. What is a new agreement you'd want to make in the way you are showing up and interacting with them? And then measure impact. Ask yourself, if I adopted that new agreement, would it result in more dignity? Would I feel more clarity and more respect? Would the other feel more dignity, clarity, and respect? And have a bit of a conversation. Support. You each have about 5 minutes to work this. So the other two that you're with, give some reflection. I see how that might address this or that, and support each other to refine it until you feel like, yeah, I think if I followed that behavioral agreement, it would improve dignity, clarity, and respect. What you'll be doing is practicing a little bit of open communication and learning how to choose. You don't have to live by somebody else's rules. You can identify what's values aligned for you, what's respectful to you, what's authentic to you, and then it becomes a negotiation to strengthen your relationship muscle. All right, do we have our breakout rooms ready?
Yes.
Excellent. So you have about 15 minutes, 5 minutes each. So see ya in 15. Have fun. Sorry, I just wanted to say hi to Holly. Did she stay? Yeah, there you are, Holly Brown. Welcome back, Steve. Ah, and you all made it through the portal back into the room. I am a Star Trek fan. That's, that's part of my worldview is Star Trek. You are on mute, Steve.
In adding to your story, and my head is actually where it's supposed to be, was my comment. I have this dream or this fantasy that yes, we'll end up with that someday and we'll come out totally not
Like a Picasso painting,
that.
disjointed
Yes,
body.
that's yes.
It might happen. It might happen. We'll be holograms and virtual reality will give us a way to reconfigure the human body, something like that. We were given the assignment in the third grade to write a story about the future. And when I turned 21, my mother sent me a scrapbook. I can't believe she kept all this stuff. And the story I wrote was about a robot. Like, where did that stuff go into my brain? Like, how did I think about that? It's
A
like,
la Jetsons robot, like a
oh
Rosie.
no. And my robot was very capable. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. And welcome, Valerie. She's joined us, as has Holly, if Holly is still here, but she's only on her phone. All right, so you've had some time to kibitz with each other and talk a little bit about the old rule and how you might replace it, what you think the outcome might have been, and what the leadership value is that that would honor. So, what's an example? I gave you one. Did that help? Did you guys see my note? Okay.
Yeah.
What showed up in your groups?
I
You
would
guys know
say
I'm really, oh, good. Go ahead, Lynn. I was going to say I'm really good at silence. I can hang out. So,
hi Carol.
Hey.
It's for our trio. We talked about lots of possibilities, but it seemed like that the what really stuck with all of us, and don't let me speak for someone else, but what we went, oh gosh, this is what just popped in my head, was it was as if we were in the airport on the moving what do you
yeah,
call that?
the walkways, the moving
The
walkways.
walkway, yeah. And I think we did a good job, having never met each other, just having an idea of where we want to go.
Hmm. So there's a really important piece in what you just said, which has to do with our ability to imagine something other than the state we're in.
Yeah.
And we know that the intensity of the workplace today, the intensity of the world today, that the workplace lives inside of, the first thing it does is hijack our ability to imagine. Right? Our nervous system automatically goes to the sympathetic system that says, how do I stay safe? And as a result, it blocks us from being able to get to the aspects of the body that can have intuition and instinct in anything other than safety. This is why you see so much work out there around mindfulness and meditation and stretching and yoga. I mean, the practices that are about well-being, because we're starving ourselves in the ability to access our innate creativity. So the fact that you all were able to do that, that's a great first step, right? That there was something that was pulling you in this conversation into movement. Those of you that are coaches here, to really be thinking about asking questions of your clients about this. What is the mindset for you that has you trust movement would be okay? I was just telling him out a story about a client from this morning who waxed on quite eloquently in the description of the problem. These three things are not happening between the board and the members of this association. And here are the reasons why that problem exists. And tell me, as the successor CEO, what are you doing about it? She was silent for quite a while and had ideas, had some thoughts, but they would require that she'd be okay with being a little disruptive. So, environmentally, like we were talking about right now, lots of people were in a mindset of prioritizing safety over what actually would take us out of the drama and move us into something that would be more satisfying for everybody that's involved. And of course, we label it. We say, well, that person doesn't understand because, and you could fill in the blank, and we could say it's generational. Well, what does that mean? It just means that my worldview and mindset are informed by different things. And unless I get curious and ask what's informing, I'm going to make it personal. That's when it all shuts down.
Yeah, Janet, that was like my light bulb moment. Is like we have these things, and then they can potentially become like these unconscious biases in how we lead, and if we don't recognize them, our view of the world is now projecting on people we're leading, and then there's judgment. And so like what I loved about our conversation is like we recognize that what our norms and values were in different are different from future generations now. And unless you actually create the space to actually invite like learning about each other and appreciating, there is different values, and then coming together to have some connectivity to operate as a unit,
Yes.
which with that respect in mind, you can just have these really horrible assumptions about people and then tell a different story. And then it just, like to your point, leads to, dysfunction, and most importantly, like negative results for the team. And so it was like a little bit of a light bulb that went off when you were sharing some of this. Is like, what am I doing also that's coloring how I view others? And neither one is right or wrong. We just grew up differently.
Good. That's the key, Anita. And welcome, Martel. Good to see you. There is a phrase in human development work that when we remember that we are always part cause or agent of the experience that we're having. It's not easy to remember. But when we can remember that we are always part cause or agent of what's happening, and we can catch the moment of tension through that lens, it will stimulate curiosity. This is the piece that we skip, right? We feel the tension and we push through. I'm going to keep doing more of what I'm doing. Oh, so I can have more tension? That makes no sense. And the responsibility of leaders to recognize when the tension is growing, to pull back. What do I want to cause to happen? I want people back in their parasympathetic system. I want them able to describe what they are experiencing. I want them to feel that I genuinely am interested in what they have to say. Again, this is what we were doing with Conversation Made Better, is how do we help leaders see that they are being part cause or agent of the drama that they don't want? Okay, just say it out loud, Valerie.
Sure, happy to. Janet, how is agent different from cause or part?
So cause definitely gets connected to effect, cause and effect. Agent might be actually proactive. I might have intentionally been the agent of the situation arising in the first place, as opposed to it being in reaction to. And part might be a bystander that withheld, or a bystander that infused, like I did. I told a whole bunch of stuff to a guy who was like, wait a minute. I've never seen that before. Oh, why did I stick my foot in it? Right? You didn't hear the story earlier, but when you go back and listen to the recording, you'll get it.
Excellent.
And the ability to notice that our intuition or instinct is aware that there's something disruptive, disconnected, uncomfortable, uncertain. Those would all be good adjectives about a relationship or a situation or something I'm about to walk into. Slow down, pay attention to it, and ask the question, what might I not know here?
Mm-hmm.
Where might I have, to Anita's point, assumptions? I don't know. You guys can check this out. When I was a kid growing up, assumption was, that it makes an ass out of you and me. I don't know that other generations have learned that. It's like it's one of my father's favorite phrases.
I still say it.
Crazy. And I don't generally repeat it, but I'm aware it's in my wiring. So, the opportunity to recognize the tension is the first step, and to reflect on, what might I not know? Because what's the other rule? Be informed. Don't be unprepared. Make sure you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. Now, if you've grown up as a digital native, you're like, why do I have to bother to do that? If I don't know the answer, I'm just going to go get it. Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I didn't grow up like that. I had to memorize it and be able to regurgitate it. Now, I'm learning how to do this, but I'm not as good at it. So I have to ask ones who are good at it and say, so how do I find out this? Ahmad's been teaching me how to use ChatGPT. Cracks me up. Guy's the master king at prompts. I'm like, oh, my really good generative question would be a great prompt if I did this to it. Okay. So he's reverse mentoring me. Where are all the places where the generations could be leaning into each other? And in that act, we dignify the differences between us in a way that is shared purpose. And here's the other piece of agency, what I meant by being deliberate and intentional, so that we cause what to happen? That's my favorite question that Steve Thorson asks our team every day, multiple times a day. We're doing this so that we can cause what to happen? It's a great leadership question. You want to do X so that we cause what to happen? To find out, does this person think about the longer ripple effect? Are they able to connect the thing that they're doing here to revenue growth? Are they able to connect it to operational efficiency? Are they able to connect it to retention of talent? Things that are every organization is concerned about. And why would we ever expect somebody who is in the first 1 to 3 years of their professional life to know how to do that? I mean, I talked to a lot of millennial and boomer bosses who were frustrated with the younger generation. I'm like, do you remember what it was like when you first joined the workforce? Did you know what the rules of the road were? Well, no, but I found somebody who did. I said, exactly. So what do you think? What do you think they're doing? Well, they don't seem to want to know what I know. They don't ever ask me. And I said, did it ever occur to you you're not inviting them? It's an example, and I don't mean to generalize, but there is a relational logjam that's occurring right now. And I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on contextually, that speed at all cost. But who's in charge of translating that? If we don't slow down as leaders and make room, we're just contributing to the thing that creates the disconnect and the dissatisfaction that's occurring in the workplace between 5 generations now.
Yeah. One of the things that occurs to me is like the ego part of it.
Mm.
And the egos, and not realizing sometimes that the older generation ego is like, what's wrong with you? Somebody complained recently that, they a younger colleague used ChatGPT to write an email, but also put the prompt in the email. So it was quite obvious they had used AI. And for us, we would be ashamed for that to happen. but I see it as, oh, critical parent and rebellious child operating in the space and not realizing the role of the egos. We pin it to generation, but it's also the ego's refusal to even stop and suspend reality and say, what makes you think this is a good idea? Or what, what led you to this?
Mm-hmm. Ego is a big kettle of fish. I appreciate that you've brought it in. You can also have a healthy ego that
Yeah.
can accept that there is a relational responsibility.
Yeah.
That I can see that someone's taken the effort to use ChatGPT to equip themselves to answer the question well, could have been a moment to acknowledge, wow, that's great. You're stepping into that. And with time, I would love for you to not need it. So, what did you learn from ChatGPT
Yeah.
about what would make an effective email response
Yeah.
to this situation? Right? So the natural coaching comes out that instead of protection, which is an underdeveloped ego who's needing to be right, right? We're in duality, right, wrong, instead of yes and.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So ego not necessarily the issue, but it is on the surface what looks like the motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. I liken it to sugar and salt, when you're cooking something and you're balancing. So it's
Exactly.
like great,
Exactly.
but the frustrations you hear. I mean, I work on my own, so I don't go through the daily grind of, whatever. But the protection part of it, I think, is what gets people into that steeped bias.
Yeah.
And that's where the possibility for the ego moving from, wait a minute, they did try. They didn't do it in the way I wanted it done. But let me examine, because we had no one to teach us. I mean,
Yes, I hear this a lot from millennial managers. Why should I have to teach them? Nobody taught me. I do hear that.
Well,
I'm
I
like,
think
okay. Go ahead,
it's
Paula.
it's an interesting connection around like what is the job? Is it teaching? Is it mentoring? Is it, you know, I love this. I love this example, Carol, because I think it's a great one. My mom uses ChatGPT all the time. It's her favorite thing. And she's like, aren't you glad that I'm not asking you to edit my emails anymore? And I'm like, yes, yes, I am. Thank you, Google. But I think there's as you think about coming back to the beginning of the conversation, Janet, around history and kind of what becomes our background and our operating system. I think about this a lot in the medical and in the research space. There's this like, I suffered through it, so you have to suffer through it too mentality. And so people
It's
are
a
like,
badge of honor.
it's about right, because if you can't stay up for 3 days, what kind of a surgeon are you? And you're like the well-rested kind that's not going to make a mistake.
Right.
But this idea that, right, I can use just because you had to write it out yourself
yeah.
and then ask a friend to de-slither it was the word that we used, right? Like, I'm angry, can you de-slither this for me? Right now I have ChatGPT to de-slither it for me if I need it, or right. But this idea that we can't embrace, like we come back down to like the Industrial Revolution. So much of the work that we do and the way in which we do it comes back to, gosh, I'm forgetting the theorist now, but it's like one of the original Industrial Revolution, punching the clock concepts, right? Like, I don't make a widget. Why do I need to stand in front of my widget maker all day? Right? This idea that we haven't evolved past time cards, and because that's how we're used to measuring.
Yeah.
How many widgets did you make? And if you can't make the widgets, you're cheating, if you found a widget mold instead of having to handcraft your own widget. Never mind the fact that now you've got more consistency, more accuracy because you have a mold, as opposed to, sure, you're losing the craftsmanship of a handcrafted widget, but you have more output of a higher quality and a higher standard. So like the balance. But this
So,
idea that,
so notice that Paula is bringing success measures. This is a missing piece of this quotient. If the measures aren't evolving, we won't evolve. because we feel obligated. I'm getting a paycheck to produce results. Nobody ever talks about it like that, but that's what's going on unconsciously. And if the measure is my effort as opposed to the impact I'm creating or what it builds on so something else can happen, what can I cause to happen, or the kind of softer qualitative, what is the mood and attitude and experience that customers have when they walk into the office. I went to a Verizon store the other day. Oh my God, I never have gotten so frustrated. I mean, I'm sure in 10 years I've never been this frustrated.
Wow.
I watched really ugly customer service interactions happen. I watched disrespect. By the time they finally got to me, and I was there 45 minutes before anybody even acknowledged me, they said there were 4 people ahead of me and that I had to make an appointment. And oh, by the way, they couldn't actually do what I came to the office for because I'd actually called corporate to find out where do I go so I can get this done because I was told I couldn't do it over the phone. No apology.
Right.
No understanding, no assistance about what my next step was. How many billions of dollars have we spent on customer service? So they're getting managed by how many people they push through. They're not getting managed to the metrics of the experience in the office. So measures are important. I really appreciate, Paula, that you kept bringing that into the conversation, and I think this is a big missing. Managers do
And
not know how to make success measurable in a way that creates behavior that we want.
right, if you use ChatGPT to write that email, and now instead of dedicating 2 hours to writing an email, it's done in 5 minutes, and now I've got 2 hours to think about how am I going to innovate? How am I going to be more efficient? How am I going to create connection? How am I going to bring the next project forward? Right, to do the
How am I going to
intellectual
get my
work.
team to work together?
Right, right. So we can cause what to happen.
Yeah, so that we can cause what to happen. Exactly. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was just saying, I popped it in the chat. So, and I loved it. It sort of threw off my bias as well. So my husband's in this greater discussion. They've been going through, I don't know, 5 or 6 years on AI at the university level because of looking at papers and grading papers and all of that. But the new thought or the new discussion is, so why are we judging Chat GPT with such a heavy hand? We've had Grammarly, we've had a whole host of things. And oh, by the way, when I was in college and earning money, I typed people's paper. You talked about slithering, Paula. I edited people who were way off. I helped their arguments, I helped their grammar, everything, right? So it's all in kind of how do we finagle the bagel here and look at things with a little more space. Yeah.
And maybe a little more grace.
Mm-hmm.
Like when did we stop giving each other grace? And I think that Gen Z feels dismissed and disregarded and misunderstood. And I think millennials and baby boomers feel dismissed and disregarded and misunderstood. Their reaction to it is completely different. The managers are being more controlling, and the employees are being more dismissive, right? Quiet quitting, don't need this job, I'm going to go do my own thing. They're just acting out the same uncertainty. This is really what I wanted to hear. And if we're going to break this phenomenon, it requires relational conversation. You have to get together and be curious with each other.
Yeah.
All right. I think there was one more breakout room. Anybody got more they want to add?
Well, where I started 100 years ago, not really 100 years ago, but a while ago, was with the rule that you will look busy.
Oh,
Well,
fascinating.
no matter what, you will look busy. Even if you're done, you will look busy. So, I mean, we're the creative souls, right? We're out of college. We invented the what we call prop rotations. So every half hour on the half hour, we would move stuff on our desk, even though we were done, so that it looked like
You were busy.
Oh
we were.
my gosh.
So, and
Brilliant, by
so,
the way.
and so what's the alternative to that in my imagination? I'm going, oh, I could have, instead of accepting that and going along, I could have said, I'm done. Now what?
Mm.
Let's have a conversation about now what?
Yeah.
Which would have, I am sure, created some dignity, some clarity, some respect, some, we know we hired you early. We really don't have the work for you yet. Just look busy. Well, what else could I possibly be doing that would create more value?
That's
So,
right. My husband tells a story. So he was born in 1945, and one of his first jobs was for the Washington Department of Transportation. And he was very good as a draftsman. And the third day on the job, the lead guy on the team came over to his desk and said, "Stop working. You're making us look bad."
yeah.
So he promptly went and got another job. He kept his job, he did his work, and then he left. He did
Wow.
something else because he just couldn't tolerate the idea of sitting at his desk doing nothing. That just made no sense. And so that's that, that's that generational difference. The expectation earlier in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, I mean, we were not even thinking about lean principles. It just the whole idea of quality improvement came in much later than that. It's like this is the way things have always been done around here. And I remember early on learning about sacred cows. Oh, that's a sacred cow. We're not changing that. What does that mean? Like for whom? But it's creating problems. It's a difficulty. Can't we just fix it? Nope. Don't want to hear that conversation again. Well, now there's so much information that there isn't anything hidden, truly. So now what's the reason we don't change? Our impulse, remember, is to grow. It's fundamental to being a human human connection, and the urge to grow. We are naturally wired for evolution, as all living systems are, and every human body is a living system, and we live in community, which is its own living system, on a planet, which is a living system. So our refusal to see the environment that we're in contributes to. This is another part causer agent, Valerie. All right, the agency of I've decided to go to work inside of a system. I made that choice to go to work for that system. Well, now that I'm here, am I going to throw stones at the glass house? Or am I going to figure out how to wash the windows so that we can see more clearly? Who else was in your group, Steve?
Carol and
Jen.
Jay, where were you? What's going on in your mind?
Oh,
I was in group 1.
yeah, Jen Huang is who I was.
Of course you were, Jay. Number one, right?
Um, no, I to be honest with you, my mind just kind of left for a second when you called on me. So,
No
it's
worries.
late.
I did
It's
not mean to
late.
put you on the spot. I just
That's
wanted to be
okay.
sure if there was something
It,
you wanted to share, you could.
no, it's late in the day here. One of the things that I've noticed with my clients, and I shared a personal story in my group about this too, is I think so much of what I'm seeing is about this relational piece,
Mhm.
and that building a strong relationship with your colleagues makes all of the difference. It's just interesting because I've been coaching for maybe close to a year now, and
Mhm.
every one of my clients has worked on some component of this. So I just think this is so essential, and it's not easy because it's 5 different generations, but I'm just seeing this connection between all of the people I've been coaching.
Thank you. Because I think that that commonality of the difficulty is part of how people overcome their fear of it. It's like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not strange because I'm experiencing this. And the flip side of this is that so much of the digital natives, yeah, they can do the 140, now 240 character thing. But to actually have somebody ask them a question is stunning.
Mhm.
I was talking to a colleague on the East Coast this morning who said, I had 3 hours with my nieces and nephews, and I felt like I was doing this, pulling it out of them every step of the way because they are not used to people asking them. They're used to commenting, saying something, having somebody say something back, saying something in response to it. It's like playing ping pong. It's not a relational, curious, let me be a learner conversation.
No.
So that's their development edge. That's what they're going to be leaning into. And the sooner the older generations realize that, so that they can actually have a relationship and take advantage of the things that they can see, the pattern level that they're able to interpret, that we didn't have the luxury of time for. But they've grown up with tools that have given them access in a whole other way. And they're, yes. Yep. Answering questions is part of the social contract.
I love it.
I had this conversation with my children and my parents, and my parents asked my kids questions, and they're like, "Oh, I mean, they're young." And they're like, "Oh, it's fine. I don't really want to talk about it." Well, and my mom's like, "This is how I show you that I'm interested in you. I
Right.
want to know what you think. I'm going to ask you a question about your day. You're going to think about it, and then you're going to answer." And we started to like prime them. When you get back from this, we're going to have a conversation about this. Consider, think about what you think about this so that we can have a conversation. And say, like, you can't just say, I don't really want to talk.
Yeah.
Part of the social contract is answering questions when people show an interest in you.
Yeah, and notice the irony in what Paula is saying, because this is what Gen Z says. You guys don't care about me. You don't care about my opinion. You don't care about what I could contribute. You don't care about this fresh idea because you don't ask me for it. Or if I give it to you, you make it wrong. But
Or
when we
you
ask
ask
you
me
for
for it, but you never do it. That's where I'm
it, exactly, exactly.
if
But it's both sides, right? They're projecting on the other. So I suppose this is another piece of, in addition to we are always part cause or agent of our experience, we will point the finger, right? This is notice when we are judging someone else and pause for a moment to see, huh, what question could I ask to find out how they see the world? That would help me see where I have commonality, as opposed to getting caught in the right wrong. Well, they're just wrong. I couldn't make the clerk in the Verizon store wrong, but I could certainly say the Verizon system has got something wired a little funny in the way that they're managing offices, right? And I called the 800 number back and I had a conversation with them about my experience. And they told me why they do things the way that they do. And I said, so your system did not give me that information. So I had to have the suffering of my wait and disrespect if your system, and when I'd first called, had said to me, you need to make an appointment. Then all of that would have been avoided. So again, every situation is either going to end up being something where we're not accepting that we're part cause or agent, we're caught in the projection on something else as the cause, and we don't see our part in it. And it doesn't matter whether you're the millennial mad at the Gen Z or the Gen Z mad at the millennial, it's the same pattern, just from different doorways. And the answer, the antidote, is more open communication. And that's a skill set. Yeah. Which portals can we open? Exactly. Even the most resistant people, what's behind resistance? Since I know I have a lot of coaches here. What's really underneath and behind resistance? It's a four-letter word.
Fear.
Fear, fear. And what is fear? It's our protection strategy to the thing we hold most dear.
Yes.
Fear is our protection strategy to the thing we hold most dear, which usually is our own self-identity. We're caught in a moment when we're feeling uncomfortable and uncertain, and maybe we're being judged and disrespected, and there's no dignity. And yeah, that's happening. No question about it. It happens all day long. It's not unique to America. It happens all over the world. But the antidote isn't to make somebody else change. The antidote is to say, hey, wait, I'm okay. And I'm having a reaction. So now let me replace my reaction with curiosity. And that's a skill. It's a skill that can be developed. It's a skill that can be encouraged. It's a skill we want to acknowledge and encourage in others in our workplaces. And to have leaders just pause for a second in the instant that they're feeling that tension to say, huh, what am I reacting to? Where's that coming from inside of me? What could I get curious about? All right. Juicy conversation. So, what are you going to do with your new agreement? What's something that you could do in the next 7 days to embody it? And a really important question, who will you share it with to witness you being accountable? And I think this is another big missing piece, which is the reason I'm offering it here to do a little practicing with, that we have feedback conversations with workplace colleagues. There is very little hook to it. It's like we have the feedback conversation and we go back to the way it's always happened, rather than having some way to incorporate it into our daily work together. When I'm setting up a coaching contract, our protocol at inviteCHANGE is to have the person who's receiving coaching go to their boss with their coach development plan. Have a discussion with their boss about what support they want during that 6 months. Examples. Carve out 15 minutes in all of our one-on-ones where you ask me about what's happening with my coaching. So this is candidate saying to boss, I want you to ask me about how my coaching is going. And what I also want you to do on a continuous basis over the 6 months is to be asking how my stakeholders are experiencing my change in behavior and give me that feedback. Now, just the act of those two requests will fundamentally change the system because they're making a commitment to be accountable for the change that coaching produces. So, it's not enough. Maybe you've had that experience. If you have this great idea when you're in the shower and then you say it out loud to somebody and it never sounds the same. But it's the act of it being witnessed by someone else that refines it. If it's only in our head, it never actualizes. So that's the point here. What's one action you'll take in the next 7 days to embody your new agreement, and who will you share it with? And this is not about solving world peace. It is about seeing it's one thing I want to approach a little differently, and who will I share it with? So we'll do a little pass the baton. And of course, you can say pass if you're not ready.
I can start.
Okay.
You got me thinking a lot about mental models, Janet, and team. And I think the thing that I'm going to really pursue is asking my colleagues, what mental models do you see are missing that from my leadership that you've got that I don't have? And the way that I was thinking about this was several years ago, my little sister told me, memes are how we communicate with our friends, how we're feeling. And I said to her, that's stupid because you could just use your words and say you're sad instead of sending like a weird meme or a GIF. And that was obviously a really insensitive, rude, sisterly thing to do. And later on, way later on, I realized like, oh, that's actually like a valid form of communication that those folks use that they're very literate in, that I'm illiterate in. And there's a whole level of literacy that I need to catch up with if I'm going to be legible to those folks. So that's a mental model I was missing.
Beautiful example. And so will you share it with your sister?
I will, definitely. I've probably already apologized for it a couple of times, but we like to laugh about, you know, how far ahead she is because she's 10 years younger.
What are the mental models that you could share with me that you're using now that would help me cope with today's environment that you navigate with such ease? Yeah, excellent. Who are you passing the baton to, Valerie?
Carol, it's over to you.
Damn. I think for me, it's really being curious, asking people, you know, like what's something just about the way culturally you see the world that we've never spoken about before. You know, because sometimes we talk to each other under the assumption of this professional, I'm a professional, you're a professional, and we have professional conversations. But just like never truly considering the cultural impact on how we are together. So really just like, you know, there's the term cultural humility, like, you know what? I really don't know a lot about where you come from. You know, tell me something, you know, share something. And who will I share this with? I will share this with a client who maybe I've been operating on under the assumption that, yeah, I'm familiar with you. And it's like, I also don't know an integral part of you.
Right.
Yeah. And I will pass it to Antonio.
Oh, that might not be fair because Antonio just joined us.
Oh,
Oh, he
I'm
just
so
joined.
sorry. You are not fair.
Wing it, Antonio.
Sorry, so sorry. I didn't. So sorry.
Carol, pass it to someone else. So Antonio's not on
Jan,
the spot.
Jan, please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing. Jan, who was in my room.
Yeah. Jean, are you still here? I think she might have dropped off.
She's here, but she probably had to run away. Okay. Rachel, I'm just going to start calling names now.
There you go, Rachel.
Oh, thank you. Hi. I've been reflecting on the idea of work ethic among the different generations. That was something that came up in our room. And I think we talked about people having personal boundaries around what things that they're willing to accept. And we talked about work-life balance. And I think that oftentimes seems to be opposed to work ethic at times. And the work ethic of certain groups being different than maybe younger groups, and the people that I manage, there is like this idea that they're not working as hard or they don't want it as much or whatever. So I'm wanting to, I think, reflect on what work ethic means for the people that we are potentially unfairly judging for not having it, and how is it taught and what exactly is it, and not assuming motivation or assuming, not assuming anyone's intent, but like why do people work hard, and what does working hard look like for people who also value their own energy and space and things like that, and does that mean they're not a hard worker? So that's what I've been kind of what's been going around in my mind through this conversation. And I hope to talk about it with my team. I work with other managers and we have these conversations, and I'm hoping that I can learn from them and their impressions, even though we do come from a similar generation, but then maybe also go to the source and talk to the younger people and find out what work ethic means for them.
Yeah.
So Rachel, can I build a little bit on what you're suggesting? I love it that you're in the dialogue about what is the translation of work ethic. And ultimately what we're talking about is work. What is work? What does work produce? How do we value the work that gets produced? What are we prioritizing? The results or the method?
Mhm.
And especially here, as we've been talking all morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are, and that there today's way of getting work done is dramatically different than it was even 5 years ago. Take that to 20 years ago, which a lot of people who are in people management roles are at least 20 years different from the new generation in the workforce. It's night and day. The translation of what is work, now that's a rich conversation. Remember
Thank
Steve's
you.
question so that we can cause what happen.
And I'm supposed to nominate someone. I pick Antonio, just kidding. No, let me play for
You
myself.
are also
He wants
fair.
to be picked.
Okay, bye-bye, bye-bye.
Well, I don't know if Steve was joking when he said pick me, but I was going to pick Paula, but I'll pick Steve if you're really excited
Thank
about it.
you, and then I will pick Paula. So
Okay.
this is, and I was not joking. I seldom ever joke, right? Wait a minute, that was a joke. So, so that what gets added by when and followed by now what? As a daily, as I go through my calendar, what am I doing this for? A different version of so that what? When will I be done with this? Well, that's already scheduled, so that's in an hour. And at the completion of that, now what? So there's an immediate into the next thing, as opposed to some activity that just simply looks busy and is not purposeful. So that's what I'm taking from here.
Good.
And Paula,
Thanks for the teeing it up because I had a minute to really think about it. So thank you for letting me know that I was on deck. I appreciate that. That helps me.
A definition of success for Paula's generation.
So I both what Rachel said and what Steve said are really resonating with me. Sort of what is, especially now that I'm not currently employed, what is work? What am I, what does success look like? Really asking myself those questions. You know, I'm putting time and energy into this for what purpose? Sort of coming back to kind of my cornerstone, which is being intentional about how I spend my time. And I like to Steve's point, not just being intentional, but by when will I be intentional? And then what will I do with that intentionality? I really appreciate those because time is meaningless in my world right now. So thank you,
Sure
Steve.
about that?
Well, in this like today, tomorrow, it's all the same in an end of the world. I was told
Is
there would
it?
be hand baskets kind of way.
And who are you going to share
Somebody
that with?
grinned at that. Somebody, Marcel, were you grinning under that hand about hand baskets? Did I see you crack a smile when I said there would be hand baskets?
Martrell, do you want a little context behind what we're doing?
Yeah, that would be useful. I can tell you why I'm on this call.
Okay.
So this past summer, one of my team members who is a millennial took on the role of managing our intern who was from Gen Z.
Oh, wow.
And we had a conversation and there were some struggles. And so I saw this call and I said, I've been thinking about this a lot. And how to help her kind of navigate that interaction, because we're going to do the same thing next summer and kind of prepare her for that.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I'm here.
So do you have a sense for what the old rule is that she might be operating under and is creating the reactivity she's experiencing?
I think it is that she was looking for our intern to be just this go-getter. And what she didn't understand, that this person is still in college and knows nothing. So you have to teach them. That's what I was trying to get across to her. You have to teach this person how to do these things, because they don't know how to do these things. This is their first job, you know.
Oh.
So
So the old rule is go getter, and the
yeah,
new rule is be curious about what they want to learn.
yes, and
and then partner to teach.
yeah.
Yeah,
Something else that kind of floated around in my head is, you know, she interviewed and selected this person. So I wasn't even part of the interview process.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
what are you curious, coach, to ask her?
what qualities did she see in this person that made her want to hire him?
Yeah. And that you're forgetting now as
Yeah.
you're in judgment about not being a go-getter. Which takes us back also again to success measure.
Yes.
How do we make success measurable in every single situation? Yeah, what competencies make for a good intern? And qualities and traits?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question, Paula. What fun. All right, who are you passing to, Martrell?
I'll pass to Lynn. Is it Lynn?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
What's your new agreement?
Yeah, so a new agreement can, gosh, that's such a wide spectrum.
From your conversation in your small group, what new
From
agreement?
our conversation in our small group, it was awesome, by the way. And we shared was about how to pull this all together as in the conversation, what to take from the conversation, and I started kind of in the middle of the story, so it's more like the conversation doesn't have to happen once.
Good. A continuous conversation. So the old rule was, I'm going to tell you once, and if you don't follow it, you're doing something wrong. Excuse me? A new rule says be in continuous dialogue about what we're up to, and recognizing there's always new information arising. Who are you passing to, Lynn?
Well, I was going to pass to the dog, but I think there's a better person to go next. Hang on.
It would be Sarah or Jay.
Let's do Jay.
Okay.
You know, as I've been listening to this today, I think one of the things that really resonated with me, that I think I do a pretty good job of this as a coach, but outside of coaching, is really taking time to notice when there's tension, to slow down and have more dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think that in turn, you know, working on that on my own will make me a better coach, recognizing that in other people.
Yeah. Oftentimes it's a little bit harder in our personal lives than it is in our professional lives, because we have so many assumptions about what our partnership means, what our relationship means. My older brother told me about my next older brother that he's like, do you why is he so arrogant? And I just smiled, and he looked at me, and I said, and you would know that how? And I happened to be in a conversation at a party with that next older brother, and he was communicating in a way that was like, oh, I know what Mike's talking about now. And I slowed down and I sat down in the chair and I asked a bunch of questions. And my brother slowed down and he kind of had a little sense of humor. And he actually asked me a question, which I've been complaining about for months. He never asked me about my work, right? But your example is spot on. Like if we could just catch the moment when we're, a little sandpaper moment and take a breath. The breath will short circuit the reaction and then replace it with curiosity. Yeah. And will you tell your partner this? Will that be your accountable
Oh,
witness?
yes, definitely. My husband will be happy to hear that from me.
That's great. Thanks, Jay. All right, Sarah, bring us home.
So Jay and I had the nonprofit volunteer board synergy, and I've been in this place. I stepped down from the actual board to a committee, and I can feel my resistance up again. So thinking about the fear is that I'm going to get swept. So my agreement with myself is for more clarity and dignity, is to really honor my boundary. And that may take some reminding and practice, and that will keep me in my agreements without getting swept.
Yeah. And what do you imagine the impact will be for you on your quality of life experience?
Will be fairly new, Janet. You know this. I think it will be, I can feel it in my gut. It just feels like a calm, a peace, a knowing.
That sounds like some really good self-dignity, clarity, and respect.
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Might
punchline.
be measures of success for those things.
Oh, yeah. That's good. That's good. When people show up with dignity, clarity, and respect, leading transforms. And boy, aren't we in a state where that's exactly what we need. Exactly what we need right now. So, I've been giving you some insights about this program, Conversation Made Better, and I really every conversation we're having right now is either building trust or breaking it. And what we hope you will access, all of you here, almost all of you here have been through some of our generative work already, so you know this. When we replace judgment with curiosity, we stop the energy leaks. We stop missing the cues. We start being more deliberate about the ask. We short circuit the knee-jerk reactions and we lead with the kind of clarity that sticks. This is what I hope you'll pass along all the time. And I will honor this. If there is somebody you know that would benefit from being able to have a different approach to their self-leadership and conversation skills, you can let me know, or you can give them this QR code and you'll be getting the deck on email. So stand by. And thank you. P.S. 61 days left to make 2025 great. Go for it with your new agreement. Paula didn't want to hear that. 61 days
No,
left.
time does not exist. It's a construct. It's not real.
We made it. We created it.
I'm in the fifth dimension. It's fine.
Love it. Yes. Yes, yes.
Well, thank you all for a rich discussion today. Thanks so much. We'll see you in
Thank you,
November.
everybody.
Bye-bye now.